All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 3 of our Jude and Matt chat.
We got an interesting one inspired by a comment we got on the previous post, which you've got with you.
I do, yeah. So we had someone leave a long and interesting post here that inspired our whole conversation today. It's going to be full of some biblical rabbit holes. So, fair warning, disclaimer that maybe not everyone agrees, but it's okay. But I'm going to read you guys the comments so you know what track we're on today and where we're headed. Okay, so this person said that they love our talks. They were up watching till 3:33 a.m., which is a number that comes up a lot, and that's what's known as the witching hour, from 3 to 5. The video ended at exactly 3:33. I definitely had a topic I'd love you to discuss in a future episode. Being Christian and being introduced to all of these astrology topics, it just seems to go against my religion. But I also don't know if I've been conditioned by them to believe that anything related to astrology or divination or energy or reincarnation is sinful to practice. As you've talked about, it is absolutely overwhelming, but I know that part of my awakening was finding God. I've been praying more than I ever have this past year, but for the first time ever, I haven't just been talking to the ceiling. I've actually felt his presence. I really don't know what I'm trying to ask. Can Christianity and astrology exist together? I have this feeling thinking, is this in violation of the first commandment? But at the same time, I think, how could God create such a beautiful universe if there aren't divine realms at work every day? Surely he cannot just be sitting on a cloud watching his world turn over to evil because we have free will, or heaven is perfect, life doesn't matter. How do you connect God and the awakening? And they said, sorry if this is confusing. So it's definitely something I think is worth talking about. And
it's a really interesting topic.
Yes. So on that note, I wanted to discuss a little bit of like what we've both learned as individuals, and then kind of bring that into what we've started noticing we're being conditioned to believe. So did you want to start out with kind of a little bit of your background on that?
Yeah, so obviously I've said before about how I found my faith, and I found it through the Great Awakening mostly, because of the path it's kind of led me on, and how different it's been from anything else I've been on, like journey I've been on in my life. And so when I first started like finding out that God was real and all of this, like I never disbelieved, but I started really feeling the presence. So I wanted to find out as much as I could. And I got speaking to this guy, Anthony, and he was telling me that he'd heard of this thing called the Gospel of Thomas, which was the 114 sayings that Jesus apparently said. And this document's meant to date back thousands and thousands of years ago, and was discovered in, I believe, 1945. And the way it describes what Jesus said is very interesting, because some of the things can kind of hit quite close to home with what we're going through right now, about in regards to how you'll feel when you wake up, and how things are going to be. I think you've got some of the passages there that you could use as reference, because they're quite interesting.
Definitely. I had never really heard of the Gospel of Thomas until you brought it up. And then when you did, I thought some of these quotes were just so interesting, and I couldn't believe that I'd never really heard about it. And, obviously they guard knowledge. They hide things from us. They edit things. Even the Bible seems to have passed through many hands and been revised many times. There's different versions.
So many times.
So myself, that's what has given me, that's what I've had so much trouble with. I've studied religion a bit. I was raised Episcopalian and baptized. I do believe in God. I do believe in Jesus. It's just my intuition and my sense of interpretation seems to be a bit different than other people. But the Gospel of Thomas was really cool when you brought that up. So one thing it talks about is getting to know yourself in order to get to know God. Which I mean, that's kind of how we both ended up feeling more connected. So this quote right here, it says, verse 3 concludes with a comment about the benefits of knowing and consequences of not knowing the presence of God within you. So it says, when you come to know yourselves, then you will become known, and you will realize that it is you who are the sons of the living Father. But if you will not know yourselves, you dwell in poverty, and it is you who are that poverty.
And
So
that is true, because I don't know
mhm,
about you, but when I was kind of sleeping and didn't really, I wasn't really in touch with that godlike consciousness that I feel like I am now. I felt down all the time, and I felt like I was poor all the time, even if I necessarily wasn't, because if you're
mhm,
not happy in yourself, you don't feel rich. Whereas when you do feel happy in yourself, you realize that money isn't the only thing that can make you feel wealthy. Like, sometimes it's the things you have in your life too.
yeah.
So yeah, that one really hit quite close to home.
Absolutely. I think that kind of brings back into living in a state of gratitude. That's one of the highest vibrations out there, is just
Hmm.
being thankful for what you do have, seeing the silver lining and everything, seeing the lessons and everything, understanding that it's all for a greater purpose, and that whatever whatever you can see in your life, you should be able to realize that it's to teach you something,
Hmm.
and
It's all a
that even
lesson.
just so and we're all here for a purpose to school our souls, and that leads into reincarnation, with which
Hmm.
not everyone necessarily believes in, but a lot of people strongly do. So I mean, in my opinion, our energy is infinite, and our energy is connected to this source, and it's all within us. I mean, I think there's a reason we have 7 chakras and there's 7 planets, and it all internally reflects in the outside world. And that's true for you in your own universe. Whatever you feel on the inside reflects in your outside world.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's
Um,
something that you want us to know.
on those quotes I sent you,
Yeah.
find the one about how you feel when you first awaken, because that one is really, really relevant. Because I think everyone's been through that, when they wake up and they hit that kind of low point, and then you
Yeah.
kind of come to accept it, and you start to see the blessings in life still, even with it afterwards. That's a really good part of it, I think.
Yes. Okay. So in Thomas verse 2, Jesus
Hmm.
then explains how a person awakens to the true source of consciousness, his, her, or their true identity, and that it is usually not a peaceful experience at first,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
a surprise, then a source of creativity, inspiration, and joy. So the quote
Hmm.
says, Jesus said, "Let him who seeks continue seeking until he finds. When he finds, he will become troubled. When he becomes troubled, he will be astonished, and he will rule over the all."
So I don't know about you, but that is very accurate for what my awakening kind of was like. I hit a very low point for a while, and I had to kind of ground myself and basically accept that I'd had to unlearn everything that I thought that I knew to be true beforehand.
Hmm.
And from there, once you let the truth resonate, no matter how horrible things are, you do feel better, because it's true. It's not lies, and the truth makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we touched on that in our last show, how it's just for people like us who have been on this journey searching for something, we just didn't know what. And, it's made us miserable for a long time. Once that all clicks together, there's this huge sense of relief once you get past that horrible part. Um,
Hmm.
and a lot of us have to go through some pretty dark stuff because it's just hard to appreciate the good without the bad. That's
Hmm. Well, to,
something
to
that's missing.
properly to properly ascend, I think you need to experience both, and to be a light worker as well, you definitely need to have witnessed the pain, because it's suffering that opens up your heart to other people, and the world, because you learn to be more compassionate and you have more empathy.
Yeah, and you learn what it's like, and you learn to reflect that love from the inside out, because you know that
Hmm.
that's more important and it feels better. And there was another quote in here I wanted to read, kind of along those lines that you sent. Hold on, where did it go? Sorry, one second.
It's all right,
Oh
just
yeah, here we
admiring of
go.
you.
You. The simple instructions given is that all is known by the one consciousness of God, and therefore live according to this realization. Jesus said, "Do not tell lies, and
Hmm.
do not do what you hate, for all things are plain in the sight of heaven. For nothing hidden will not become manifest, and nothing covered will remain without being uncovered." So that's like a
And
dark to light thing.
yeah, yeah, that's very relevant to like the Great Awakening, because it says nothing that's done in the dark will not be brought to light. So it kind of it references that there.
Absolutely. That's why I think the Gospel of Thomas is so fascinating. And I'm like, why haven't I heard about this?
It's definitely worth reading it. I mean, it's 114 sayings, but they are really interesting. And for anyone who's going to watch this who hasn't heard of the Gospel of Thomas, especially if you are a Christian, it's definitely something that you might want to look into, even if you don't necessarily believe it to be canon or whatever. Just know that it is interesting, and some of the thoughts in there are very accurate to what are going on with all of us right now.
Absolutely. And again, one of the things that I've had so much trouble with when it comes to organized religion is how it kind of seems to box people into a certain way of thinking. And especially the slightly more hardcore ones that try to make you feel fearful of God and that you're sinful, you need to be ashamed of yourselves all the time, you constantly repent, you're less than. Like, I just don't, I see that it's so low vibrational because we're meant to like embody this love and light.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. I mean, in my opinion, I feel like that godlike energy is unconditional love. That no matter what you would do, God will forgive you, and God will still love you and help you see the error of your ways, if anything. So I understand why that kind of fear mongering side of it can seem quite intense, because it does kind of go against emotionally what you believe that godlike love to be. God loves you, so if God loves you, why would you constantly be in fear? So I think there are ways to interpret it, but everyone interprets things differently, and some people have quite a you get people who have like positive outlooks on life and people who have negative outlooks on life, and you have those kind of people in everything.
Absolutely.
So there is a possibility that some people reflect on it in those ways because they have low vibrations within themselves.
Right. And this is something that, again, it's an individual choice to go in and do this work and try to understand things differently and become more of a positive person. Like, it can take a lot of strength sometimes, especially when you've been through so much. But at the same time, like, once you hit that point and you get past it, it's so freeing, And I think when it comes to Jesus and everything, me personally, I have simplified it a lot for myself because I see a lot of it as a little bit convoluted. There's a lot of kind of like hypocritical stuff in a lot of versions of the Bible. And when you think about how it's passed through the hands of his enemies and the people who killed him, I just don't know what to think about that, And for me, I think he was trying to teach us that we can all be like him and learn to shine our divine light from the inside out, because we're all children of God. He might be an embodiment of God, but he was trying to tell us that we can all be more like him, and we should always be asking what he would do and try to embody that, because he was kind of like the original protester. I mean, people forget that he like flipped tables and stuff, over this, just trying to teach people that you don't have to live like this. You don't have to live in fear and misery and division, and you're not supposed to lie and hurt each other, We're born as innocent children who are meant to laugh and play and create, and we're not supposed to be tagged paying bills in a machine for the rest of our lives.
No, definitely not. And yeah, I mean, when you look at like a lot of religious texts, you can see that Jesus did just, he said several times he probably let go of their egos, wants people to have that unconditional love. But, people didn't agree with it. And because he was so positive and so loving, people didn't want it, And, you get those situations a lot in the world now as well. People try and make change and they get thrown to the wolves, basically. Like it happens. But yeah, I mean, there are many beliefs about Jesus. My personal opinion, I don't know fully. I just know different opinions that I've seen. Obviously there's the biblical opinion that he obviously is the Son of God, and everything, and then you've got some people who believe that Jesus was just a high vibrational person who had already ascended as much as you could on earth, which was why he was able to do all these incredible things, because he was truly awakened. So I don't personally have an opinion. I believe in Jesus. I believe in Jesus, and I believe Jesus was incredible. But I'm not into going into the fine details with it, because I think nobody can ever truly know unless you were able to have that encounter, and it's a thing that people believe on so strongly that it's something that you'd kind of want all the knowledge for, really, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I do. I understand what you mean. There's a lot of different beliefs. People get a little, yeah, a little picky sometimes when it comes to that. But like I can agree with you that I have more of an outside opinion. I was raised Episcopalian and baptized, and I just walked away from it because it felt too boxed in and
Mm-hmm.
forced.
Mm-hmm.
And I went back to Christianity in high school, and like it just didn't resonate with me. Something was still off to me,
Okay.
because the whole, if you don't believe exactly what we believe, you're going to hell, shame, I thought was very wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And that hit me a couple times when I had that experience. It was kind of negative, so I nothing against true Christians. I know there's a lot of true Christians out there that understand that we need to love and respect everyone.
Absolutely.
But I've seen sort of the Agent Smith effect again when it comes to some of the religious things, where someone, if you say something that they don't agree with or something that they're indoctrinated with, they'll kind of pop out and get a little,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
uppity on you and start posting a lot of paragraphs of things. But I just want to see it from a very simple perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Is that Jesus was a loving person connected to God in a way that we are still learning to understand. And I think a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people
Mm-hmm.
are doing a better job at understanding that now. And I think what it is that the cabal and some of the darkness out there has led us away from that truth, which is that our world starts inside out. We
Mm-hmm.
are walking pieces of this divine creator that are meant to be working together and creating, a golden age of love and light. And they've thrown us off of it on purpose. And there's this whole thing with like the pineal gland, like some people don't necessarily believe in it, but it was discovered. I am reading The Secret History of the World by Mark Booth,
Mm.
just getting into chapter 6, so still early on. And this is an early edition of the book as well, so there's some stuff that still looked like a picture or two that needs a caption or something. But for those of you who don't know about the pineal gland, I'll just read this excerpt here. The pineal gland is a small great gland the size of an almond, which is situated in the brain where the spinal cord reaches up to it. In esoteric physiology, when we have a hunch, our pineal gland begins to vibrate, and if spiritual disciplines are used to increase and prolong this vibration, this may lead to the opening of the third eye, situated, of course, in the middle of the brow. And it shows this little graphic here.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a reflection of our internal world and our internal connection. And a lot of it, like Egyptian gods and leaders, had a symbol in their pineal gland, which oftentimes was a snake.
Mm-hmm.
And the snake is a very interesting symbol in religion, as we all know. It's kind of a disruptor, if you will. But when you look at the similarities between our outside world and our internal world, again, like the fact that we are getting more familiar with chakras and the fact that we have 7 and there are 7 planets, it's all kind of, the universe is within us, and
Mm-hmm.
whatever we put out, we get back. It's just that simple. So when you decide and you make that decision, say, I'm gonna, I want to let go of my ego. I want to let go of fear and anxiety so that I can be kinder to myself. That gives you the strength to be kind to other people, because it's
Mm-hmm.
when you
Mm-hmm.
don't love yourself, it makes everything so hard.
It really does, because even if someone has, whether it's a friend or anything, loving feelings towards you, if you don't love yourself, you can't accept their love. You don't believe it. You think it's all a lie, and you push people away even if you don't mean to. So yeah, it is very important to. People think they're selfish when they focus on themselves. That's not true. You're made to think that because they don't want you being content in yourself. You do need to love yourself and put you first, because in the grand scale of things, your ascension is what matters as well. So number one is you. This is your universe. Don't let anyone or anything in it that is going to stop you from reaching that goal you need to reach that godlike consciousness.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you're going to get signs that things aren't serving you, and it's important to pay attention to those. And when you're feeling resistance, when you're feeling unhappy, when you're feeling unsure of something or someone, it's just a sign to move on from it. I know, because it's just like that feeling when things aren't working out or going your way. It's not necessarily a negative thing. It might just mean that, like, where this door's closed, a window opened over there. So nothing's impossible. It's just more of a puzzle. And it's interesting when you start listening to the universe, it really can talk back and forth with you. And, you know, some people might think that's crazy, but I've had a lot of moments where, like, I've had sort of supernatural experiences where I felt like I received messages and I didn't know what to make of it, and I didn't know who to talk to about it, and I didn't know if it was real. And while I was still struggling to love myself and be happy, I remember feeling this presence visit me while I was just minding my business in a movie theater. And I was pretty down low in the realm of self-hatred and misery and not knowing what was going to happen next in my life. And I actually remember I was watching the first Trolls movie. And it was like I was talking to Jesus in my mind almost. That's what it felt like. I don't know how else to explain it, but I remember, like, I said something self-deprecating to myself, and this presence was like, well, why would you say that? I mean, I made you perfect just the way you are. You just have to come to terms with that. And you know, and I started, like, crying in the theater, and nobody noticed, and I was like, it's Trolls is just a really good movie. I'm good, I'm fine. Because it feels crazy when you start having these connections and you don't know if it's real or not. And I needed that message at that time, and it was sent to me, and it overwhelmed me, but I didn't know what to do with it. And it was just, like, kind of one of many things that happened on my journey to self-improve and reinvent myself and challenge myself. And you have to go through those difficult things to get to the other side. And that was kind of like, well, it was one of the catalysts. I mean, at the time, I just didn't necessarily want to believe it, but I was just like, it's nice of you to say, kind of thing. You know, at the time, I was just like, it's hard when you're down there and you're just like, I was being told to get over myself, you know, basically, and love myself. And I think I've talked about it before, but I also, not that I'm telling you guys to go out and do acid, but I did LSD one time. Psychedelics are really interesting for a lot of people. And I think if you take them in a spiritual sense and you're ready for it, and you have an intention to learn something, they can be good every now and then. But obviously I'm not telling people to go do drugs. I'm not, you know, I'm not like, I don't drop it like every weekend or whatever. This was like almost 2 years ago now. I did it one time. And I had this, like, experience. I was being told, and, like, obviously this was before I went viral or anything. I was being told that I was going to be like this figure that people wanted to listen to. People were going to want to talk to me. I needed to be more loving. I needed to be more like Jesus. I needed to be, you know what I mean? Like, and it didn't make any sense at the time either. And it was just like, you need to write, you need to create, you need to be who you were meant to be. And that was around the time that I started going by Jude, and I got this job I had a job that I really liked at the time. And I had been doing a lot of things to self-improve myself, but I was still limiting my reality. You know, I was taking the steps, but it was an interesting experience to be told that, and then have everything happen, and actually, like, have a viral video and have all these people that want to know my opinions and all these things. It was like, that was a real message. So now, I'm looking back going, I think some of these messages I got, like that time in the movie theater, was actually real. And that's overwhelming, you know. But you have to open up your mind to that kind of thing. And it's all inside. And we're led to believe that the outside affects our inside, but that's,
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think that's the truth. And I think a lot of these ancient peoples and cults have known that for a long time. They take advantage of that
Oh,
knowledge.
definitely,
They keep it
definitely.
from us on purpose, you know.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say some of your experiences are that have kind of like led you to that truth?
Uh, I don't know really. Like, there's a lot of things. Like, there's being mistreated by people for a
Yeah.
start, and always wondering why I always wanted to give more to people, whether it was friends or past relationships or anything. That kind of gave me a nudge, and also I I was told by a psychic one time. She told me that, kind of similar to you, that one day I'd have people listening to me and things like that. And I remember kind of not believing it at the time because I was very shy. I
Yeah.
wasn't somebody who would go out and publicly speak. I wasn't somebody who would even go on Facebook Live for like 3 or 4 friends. You know, if people wanted to take a picture of me, I'd be like this, you know,
Okay.
like
Mhm.
all of these things. So it didn't really make sense. And then I had a Reiki session one time. Someone gave me Reiki, and I remember having this like vision while I was being given Reiki, and I saw myself standing on a stage, talking in front of many people, which obviously hasn't happened yet. But I think it was more of like a what is it, like representing something more,
Like a
because
metaphor.
yeah, a metaphor, that kind of thing. Because now, even though it's on social media, there are people listening to what I have to say, and there's
Mhm.
people, you know, yeah, there's people saying things like, you know, asking me what my opinion is on stuff, and wanting me to reassure them, because you know they message me saying that I'm struggling with this to do with the awakening, and things to do with certain topics like arrests and stuff. People getting nervous, are things happening, and they come to people like us for that reassurance, and it's kind of overwhelming because when I think about me as a person, I'm just Matt who lives in England, who, you know, just kind of, especially with COVID right now, doesn't do a lot because there's nothing you can do really with COVID, you know,
Right.
and stuff like that. But then this other side of me is searching for information to do with stuff going on and trying to help people learn as much as they can with what's going on. So like it is really crazy, and I don't think I'm ever going to get used to it, to be honest.
Yeah, I know. I didn't expect any of it myself. And um, just to touch back on what started this whole conversation is I do kind of think that we've been conditioned to think a certain way and forget about the way that we relate to the universe and the way that it relates to us. And you and I have stepped out of a box, and it's always going to feel kind of crazy
Yeah, it's definitely crazy.
to not be in that box anymore. But when you start to learn everything you can, you basically learn that you know nothing.
Hmm.
Like, so all you can do is kind of speculate and try to gather as many pieces and clues as you can. And there's a lot of disinformation out there, things that people don't
There is.
necessarily agree on. You know, the cabal likes to release things on purpose to mess with us and make us think that that's the truth when it isn't. And a lot of people are led towards like kind of a false version of God that makes you live in fear, or like the Freemasons at the very tippy top of their triangle is this light that is actually Lucifer. And that's, it's kind of a terrifying thing. But like I said, I try to simplify things. And for me, my church is inside. It's wherever I go, because
Hmm.
God's always with you. So you don't really need to go into a building. You could just go out into nature and get your hands and feet on the earth, or put a mat out, or whatever it is, and just be grateful for your
Hmm.
existence, for your lessons, for the day. Um, you know, you want full attention, not necessarily to any, obviously, like idols or people on earth. We need to be learning how to connect with God. And that's, it's infinite, it's secular, it's
Hmm.
cyclical
Hmm.
within
Hmm.
us. So that was a big thing for me when I had my an interesting meditation over the summer. I was unlike anything else I'd ever experienced because I felt that release when I genuinely was like, okay, I'm ready.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be afraid anymore. I need to learn things. I am ready to take this next step and open my eyes to a bigger picture. That obviously opened up to all these people, Trump supporters, people I would have like fought with before. You and I wouldn't have talked. It just blew open my entire world, and obviously my phone's never been quiet ever since then either. But I don't consider myself any kind of like idol or leader necessarily, but
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I am willing to give people some positivity and reminders and just pass on my own knowledge if it helps anyone. If my story helps anyone, great. That's why I'm just trying to live my truth. But ultimately, I'm learning that we've been led away from what we have all along, right here.
Mm-hmm.
You're conditioned to ignore that.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good idea to study and watch the planets, even if it's something you've never considered before, because you'd be surprised the kind of events that have occurred
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
before during previous conjunctions, like the one that's coming up on the 21st, on top of the solar flare, which supposedly will look like a big second sun ball of light. Not
Mm-hmm.
totally sure. There's a lot of different opinions and sources on that. I can drop some links if anyone needs to, but
So many different speculations of what's going to happen on that day, and that is it's quite nerve wracking because we don't know.
it, it isn't. It's getting so close.
It's
What are
so
we on?
close.
The 7th? Oh, I'm more excited
It's
than anything.
intense.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
more excited than anything. Now to touch on that, there's a conjunction happening between Saturn and Jupiter. So I'm jumping over to timeanddate.com is where I'm getting
Mm-hmm.
this little blurb. Generally speaking, a conjunction is when two objects appear close to each other in the sky. A conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn, which only happens once every 20 years, is called a great conjunction. So it says this is super rare. On December 21st, the day of the conjunction, Jupiter and Saturn will be separated by a mere 0.1 degrees, which and may appear as a single bright star. The two planets are completely merged together in our night sky map on this date, although careful observers should be able to separate them in the sky with the naked eye. It will be the closest great conjunction since July 16th, 1623.
Wow, it's crazy.
It's kind of crazy. So, and the interesting thing is that this book was mentioning is like kind of the myths behind the planets. Like
Mm-hmm.
Saturn is kind of Hades or Satan, or it's kind of evil, and Jupiter is like Hercules,
Mm-hmm.
essentially. So they're having like a battle of the ages. That just doesn't happen very often, obviously. And the age of Aquarius is meant to be coming in around the same exact time, and
Mm-hmm.
that's been rumored for a long time. And I'm sure a lot of people know about that song, "The Age of the Aquarius." Take a look at the lyrics just for fun. It's just one of those times where it's time to open our minds to other
Mm-hmm.
things,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of knowledge has been hidden and taken from us on purpose. So learn everything you can, just in case, especially about the planets, because some really interesting speculations and theories on what's supposed to happen after, and it's supposed to be leading us into the fifth dimension, which isn't necessarily a physical place. It is a state of consciousness
Mm-hmm.
that's
Mm-hmm.
supposed to just wash over us
Yeah.
in
Mm-hmm.
like gamma rays, and frequencies are words that are dropped a lot.
They represented it in The Simpsons as well. There's a
Okay.
scene where it happens when the kids are at school and this ray of light just goes over them and they're like this, and then suddenly they're like, you know, they showed it in The Simpsons, so it must be true. Like
I
every,
know.
you know, it's the way it is, though, isn't
It's so weird.
it?
It's so weird that that's true, but I have a theory that the creator of The Simpsons has some kind of looking glass that's related to like
Well,
pressure
he is
glass.
a very high up 33rd degree Freemason. So
There's also
there's your answer. Have you heard the song from The Simpsons? I can't remember what it's called, but it's like "We do, we do," and they're like, "Who keeps the Martians under wraps? We do," and all of this, and like it's like who holds back the electric car and all stuff like this, and who who chooses every Oscar night. So like they literally tell you that everything is just their narrative. Yeah, it's in The Simpsons. It's a secret. There's a secret society as well, and there's like a reptilian.
Oh my
There's reptilians wearing like ritual robes and stuff like that. Like,
word.
yeah, The Simpsons has so much stuff in it. You know.
It really does. I just it's that's kind of leading us into our segues here of some of the questions. But I also, let's see, what else did we want to touch on? The interesting thing, speaking of that, the solar flash and everything, is there's a theory. I'm not going to say fact or anything, and I'm not trying to alarm anyone,
Is this
but
the one that you get excited about?
yeah, I get excited because it's so people are saying that we're supposed to be ascending, and it's supposed to maybe change our DNA. We might have like superpowers.
That would be so cool, wouldn't it?
It'd be so sick.
That would be so cool.
It makes me think about things like X-Men, like why, and
Hmm.
predictive programming, and why they've shown us things like X-Men.
Well, do you have Misfits in America?
I love this.
Yeah, well, that sounds
I love
very, doesn't it? It's very
it. Yeah,
like Misfits.
man. I was obsessed with that show. The first season was the best.
It got bad when Nathan went. It wasn't as good.
I Nathan was the only
He
reason I
he
watched it.
he was the best character. It got
He's
boring when he
he's the
left.
entire reason I watched The Umbrella Academy, because he was just a different version of Nathan in that. I swear. But no, it's really interesting to see what Hollywood puts out about superpowers, because do you remember in the X-Men, one of the things that happened in the series was they wanted to suppress mutant powers with a vaccination?
No,
Yeah.
I don't remember that. But
Yeah.
that's very interesting.
So there's a group of mutants that they think they see their gifts as a curse, and they want to be normal and get rid of it, and they think it's a great idea. And then obviously there's others that are just like, oh no, absolutely not, absolutely not. So like, we're giving these gifts on purpose, and we're meant to discover them and embrace them. And I think a lot of humans don't fully realize this, but most of us, I think, are meant to have abilities like telepathy. I mean, like sending each other messages in dreams and stuff is something that already kind of happens for some people. And
We had something like that, didn't we?
yeah, we did. Yeah, we talked about it in your live. I wanted to give your friend Katila a shout out because you had a really great talk with her. But we'll touch on it because I just thought it was so interesting, and it's just these kind of connections just don't happen every day, obviously. And I was having a talk with my mom the other night, and normally I call Matt at a certain time, and I was feeling anxious about it, and I didn't want him to think that I'd forgotten him, and I was looking at the clock at a very specific time. I was like, I just need him to know that I'm going to call him soon, and I haven't forgotten. And then I just kept talking to my mom, and I just kept thinking about it.
Yeah. And I was obviously asleep. I had a dream, and just randomly in my dream, I saw you, and you came towards me, and you said, "I haven't forgotten you. I'm going to call you soon." And then I woke up briefly, saw the time, and it was a little bit later than you'd normally call me. So I went back to sleep, and then I woke up to you basically saying how you'd wanted to call me and been thinking about it, but you'd been stuck with your mum for a while, and I told you that you'd told me.
And you said that I had like a white, like a light in my hand, something like
Yeah. You were holding like a light in your hand. It was really strange. But you literally said that, and then I woke up. And then when I told you that what you said to me, you said that's really strange because I was thinking so hard about telling you I hadn't forgotten you.
Yeah. So it's just one of many things I think humans are capable of. And I thought it was really cool that happened at all.
It was so cool.
Yeah, because like, I mean, we haven't necessarily known each other that long, but we just clicked so immediately, and we've learned so much about each other in a short amount of time. And then that happened, and I was like, oh man, this is definitely something,
Something special here,
Yeah. But I think that a lot of humans are meant to connect like that, and we're definitely leaning towards like evolving and being more accepting of that. So I hope that more people can open up their minds to things like astrology, even when they feel like they're limited to religion. I think there is no box, so it's important to learn what you can, but you'd be surprised, just things that could happen. So on that note, I think I wanted to go into some of our questions, and
Okay.
let's see. Yes, this one. Does a certain amount of fear come with what you do?
Okay, so for me, at first, I was very paranoid because obviously I'd just been learning about all this stuff, and I only wanted to wake up people from my town, and then my followers grew, and then I started realizing that this was becoming a pretty big deal because I was putting myself out there, and even more, I was showing my face. I wasn't like doing it anonymously. I was showing who I was. I actually changed over my original Instagram account, which I'd had with my friends. So I had them on there already, and I just kind of archived all my old stuff and started posting truth. So there was a period of time where I was scared to go out in case that someone murdered me. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I was very like that. I was very paranoid. But then I kind of sat back, realized that they're more likely, if they are going to go for people, going to go for people in the industry who are actually like 100% certain on what they're saying. Because we're just, even the stuff we get that we put out, we get it off them. Everything that's out there is from them, whether we like it or not. They've
Right.
got us in so many ways, and we just have to do what we can with it. So then I obviously, when I found my faith and stuff from everything, I then realized that I clearly, like, this was something I was chosen to do, that like, or it wouldn't be happening. Like, nothing is coincidence in life, and
Yeah.
there was a reason why I'd kind of never fit in places before, and it was because I was being kind of held back for this time to fully like start doing what I had to do and things. And I then started realizing that you can't be scared because love is so much more important than fear. And I started applying that to other things too. Like, I overcame my fear of heights. I got taken to the fair, and there was this really high, I'm scared, I hate heights so much. And there was this really high up ride that I'd always say no to all the years before, whenever my friend Cleo tried to get me to go on them. And I went to say no again, and then something in me went, "What are you doing? You're not that person anymore." And I went, "All right, yes." And I had the great time on it. I had a great time, and I'm putting that kind of thought and that kind of mentality to everything now. Like, it's got to be love over fear, because fear is
Absolutely.
a lot of what holds people back. You need to let go of it. It's man-made.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's drilled in your head. They want you scared of things, because if you're not scared of things, then you're a big threat.
Yeah, they
Because
can't control you if you're not
yeah, they
scared.
can't control you. They control you with fear. So you have to kind of let go of it. I don't mean do stupid stuff that's going to get you
Right.
killed. I'm not. I'm
Right.
not saying just like do crazy things, but like things like maybe enjoying a ride, just like that you wouldn't go on because you're scared of heights. Let it go. Overcome that fear, because they put those fears in you.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I totally agree. And I think I only had a little bit of fear initially, before, when I was thinking about even saying something, like before, like my video, right? The one I made in the car that everyone saw. I have a drafted video that I made the day before. I've never shown anybody. And I was trying to come to terms with this. I was like, I was like, there's a chance that like maybe Trump is like a good thing happening to
Yeah,
this country.
yeah.
And that made me like physically nauseous for a minute. And I was like,
Mhm.
it's just me on the couch, like with a towel on my head and just being like, I think, I think, and like I just wasn't ready, and I didn't like the video, and then I ended up doing the way more aggressive one the next day because I was
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
I can't live like that. I can't live like
Mhm.
this.
Mhm.
I'm just going to say it, and regardless of whether or not he ends up being part of any kind of deep state plan, I think he's been a mirror to this country, and he's
Mhm. Mhm.
taught us everything, and made people look internally, and some people haven't been willing to do that. So uh, it's just I've just had to let go of all that stuff too. And the same thing, like I've just had to be like, you're not that person anymore. Just do it.
There's a very interesting video of Marina Abramovic
Mm.
on a stage, and if she's probably eating her words now, yeah, but she turned around. This is before the election, and she
Hmm.
said that she went to the mountains where the like ice shamans live, and apparently one of them turned around and said, "Trump is what would be good for America, because he will be the one that the world needs for them to truly wake up." And
Hmm.
she laughs when she says it. I bet she isn't laughing now, because Donald Trump won and he woke everybody up. That shaman knew something.
Yeah. Regardless, I think of his true nature deep down. I just think that a lot of people have come together in the name of love and support and understanding over all of this. And I think that this journey has been more important than anything.
I've
And
never felt so much love in my life than I have since this awakening. Like, even though there's been some hard times because it's horrible stuff to have to come to terms with, the community itself, like the people, people are so hateful towards Trump supporters. And I tell you what, they are some of the most positive, open-hearted people I have ever come across. Like, they honestly, they give you blessings all the time. They're so full of love. And then the people pointing the fingers, calling them hateful, are the ones who are attacking people, are the ones who are bullying people. And
screaming out the
people
windows
really, yeah, people really have the wrong idea of who the hateful ones are, because Trump supporters are so wonderful. They really are.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I wanted to shout out really quick was I was just listening to John Paul Rice on Christy Mayer's podcast. And John Paul Rice had a video that went viral on August 7th. And he actually credits me for helping him do that. And I worked for him for a couple of weeks to help respond to all the messages that he got as a result. But he mentions a lot of the things that we're talking about and the way that a lot of these supporters have come together in love. And Chrissy herself was like, I went to this rally and I've never felt so much love and support in a group in my life. It's like being at church and being with your friends and like all the like going out to doing something fun, like all at the same time. And there's nobody shoving, pushing each other out of the way. Everyone was just, supportive, and that's the kind of energy that I've just gravitated towards ever since kind of like leaving the left, because that's essentially what I'm known for, is like that I was a liberal. I used to say things like unfriend me if you're a Trump supporter, it's just mean. And my mom brought it up to me the other day. I was like, stop it. But it's true. And it's just, but once I realized that the other side bullied them so hard and they would literally just, half the time they wouldn't even respond, I was like, that's a way better attitude to have than to constantly be fighting. And they're not the ones like rioting on the streets and destroying things either.
No, they're not.
They're defending themselves when they have to. I think you have to notice that some of these things are taken out of context, and I think people are allowed to defend themselves. You shouldn't have to just take it to be a better person. But on to the next questions we got here. Do you predict a big arrest?
I do. There's going to be some big arrests when this court stuff comes out. It's treason, and there's going to be many of them, and people are going to be really, really shocked. And some people are really not going to want to accept it, but it's going to be hitting them in the face because they're not going to be able to excuse this like they have everything else.
Yeah, and I think there's also a reason that we're hearing about certain execution methods coming back as well. And I think you're the one who pointed out to me the fact that the United States purchased like thousands of guillotines like 2 years ago.
Yeah, right before the previous election, 30,000 guillotines were purchased, and they were hidden underneath Walmarts.
That's so weird. Yeah, and I don't think that the losing side would set all this up. Like if he thought he was losing, I don't think he'd bring back firing squads.
No, but I mean the guillotines were for if Hillary won. They were.
You think so?
That's what makes. Oh, that they definitely were.
Yeah.
They were going to put us all in FEMA camps and behead us. That was the plan. And if you look at the opening of the world's longest tunnel, I believe it's in Switzerland, the CERN one, you will see in the opening ceremony that it actually had guillotines chopping off normal people's heads in front of crowds of people. So they were going to get the truth seekers and stuff to look crazy, I think. And
yeah,
but it's been stopped. I heard they got destroyed actually as well, but whether that's true, I'm not sure. But I'm kind of no, I don't hope that. I'm not going to say that. But
okay.
maybe no. I was thinking more as a justice thing. It would be nice to. I'm not for that stuff, but it would be calmer, wouldn't it, if they got a taste of their own medicine? Is what I was.
It would. I know. I'm just myself. I'm kind of hunkering down. I'm holding back a little bit more on social media, and I'm more participating in real life right now because I myself, I'm getting a little impatient. I want to see things happen too, but there is a plan and it takes a lot to get it together. This is really, really big.
Mm-hmm.
It can't just happen overnight, and there's so much corruption so deep within our system that you can't just go tell the police or go tell the judge because,
Mm-hmm.
they've been paid off or they're puppets themselves. So it's just going to be a frustrating process, but you know, I'm pretty confident that things are going to change no matter what because they're literally meant to.
Yeah, yeah.
It's pretty much predicted. It's fated. It's destiny.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. We're running a little late today, but it's going to be fine. We're going to answer a couple more questions here. So somebody I wanted to know our thoughts on reptilians and the videos of people glitching out and stuff.
I definitely believe in reptilians. Above Majestic is probably my favorite documentary. Regarding the videos of eye switching, I believe some of them are very real, and I also believe there's a lot that are fake.
Yeah.
You can kind of tell the ones that look more real than others. The ones that are tend to make my skin crawl a little bit because they get you really off guard, you know.
I think somebody on Howard Stern testified to seeing somebody shapeshift. Have you heard that one?
I think I've seen that. Did he randomly? Is it on a radio show? And he turned around and he didn't want to talk about it at first. And they went, "No,
Yeah.
say it." And he said, "Okay, so I saw someone turn into something like." Yeah, I did see that.
Transform. Yeah.
I believed him. He looked very uncomfortable about mentioning it in general.
Well, yeah, I mean, because you feel crazy. I mean, this a couple years ago, the concept of, lizard people, everyone was like, oh, whatever, but now we're headed towards this age of where people are kind of ready for aliens and things to start coming out. But the thing is, the cabal kind of know this, so they're putting out disinformation and they're ready to start like a false flag thing. And they're distracting people with these moving monoliths and stuff. I don't really know if I believe in that stuff for sure, but I just see some of this as just distractions. But the reptilians are the lower vibrational beings that basically invented adrenochrome. They have to have it to survive in this reality. So I think they're responsible for a lot of the horrible things that have happened, that are happening. But they're not going to survive the conjunction and the solar flash and the golden age that we're about to enter. So that would lead me into one of our next questions. So did we want to talk about Bill Barr really quick, or do we want to just kind of move on past that?
We can maybe a little bit. All I'm going to say is I'm really not sure right now because apparently a lot of people are saying that article isn't actually very believable and that he didn't say there's no evidence and it's actually a fake article. I would say he could possibly be a great chess player. If you look at some of the footage of him and Trump in the past, they grin at each other like two naughty schoolboys. They've definitely got quite a rapport there, and I can't imagine he would throw him to the wolves right now. So I'm hoping that it is all tactic and it's gonna give us all the last laugh.
Yeah, that's just one of those things I don't feel like I know enough to say. I'm just watching the same as everybody else. I'm just like, I'm not really sure anymore. But there's just so many rumors and articles and misinformation that I just want to wait it out and see. It's very likely that this could be part of a plan, or he could be keeping his enemies closer than his friends. It's just one of those things that it's going to be like a big spy movie when it all plays out. It's just going to seem ridiculous, but it's all going to work out the way it's meant to. So I want to say one of our pretty much the last question here that we're going to touch on. Can you give us something to hope for by the end of December?
I would just say hope for all the exciting things that allegedly are going to come with this solar flash. Hope for a huge awakening amongst the masses. Hope for a bigger and better world coming for all of us, without these low vibrational entities, and also hope for a better year than 2020 because
well, change is uncomfortable. Change is very uncomfortable, and the new golden age that we're meant to be entering into isn't going to come without that uncomfortable transition. And I think 2020 has been a lot of that so far. and just remember that it starts with you. It starts here. It's the world isn't just going to suddenly get better necessarily. You have to be working on yourself and be ready for it and be open to it. But look into this, the conjunction and the solar flash is really interesting. And a lot of people have predicted that this is going to be the heaven on earth we've been waiting for, and that a big wave of people are going to wake up. A lot of that evil is going to drop off because they simply can't survive that kind of consciousness. They can't survive everyone breaking free. So many people are waking up to what's going on, and that's a really, really good thing. And we're expecting another wave this month in a matter of days. So it's something to look forward to. Just hang in there, appreciate what you have right now, be thankful. Just again, look for the silver lining in everything. I know everyone's probably feeling kind of broke for the holidays, but myself, I'm kind of just happy to be back at home. My relationship with my mom is better. I have you, and like I don't care about presents or anything this year at all. I just want to have some cookies, and listen to some music, go out, but like I'm just happy to be here at this point. I'm like, I made it. I made it through some really dark times with myself, because I was, I've talked about it before, but I was suicidal for a really long time. I just didn't understand. I felt like this was like a broken reality that I didn't belong in. I was like, why is it like this? Why is it like this? And then it was like, boom, this is why. And then I was like, oh, okay. And it just started to make sense. So just take care of yourselves and understand that
Absolutely.
Things are literally supposed to get better, but you have to be willing to be part of that change.
Well said.
Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Trying to think. I did have something, but I got kind of lost in what you were saying there. No, I've really lost it. I've absolutely lost it. No, it'll have to come back to me another time. I've completely forgotten.
Yeah, so just hang in there, everybody. We're going to get through this December together, and keep your eyes open, but stay grounded, stay hydrated.
That was it. You just got it. Thank you. That was what I was going to say. Be grounded. Yeah. I was going to go along those lines. You got me.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, well, guys, so we'll check out some of the people and things that I mentioned. It's Katila Alive, Matt did, John Paul Rice, huge shout out to him. He's helped me through a lot. He's been there for me during all of this as well. So take a listen to his podcast. I think some of the things that he says will help you as well. And we will see you soon.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for watching. Appreciate you guys. Bye.